Okay, so day 2, I'm getting a little more ripples, a little more stacked dimes look. So I'm improving. And here's just a picture of my levitator. What I call the levitator, it's just simple bungee cords that help support my torch lead. Puts it up in the air for me. Okay, so I'm going to do a little right-handed action here. Just practice with my right hand. To this point, I've really been focusing on my left because I'm a natural right-hander, and I expect my right hand to pick this up quicker. Okay, so here I'm starting to get some consistent, decent looking welds, some nice ripples. Still got some cratering issues.
TIG finger helps a lot.
Okay, so I started working on some horizontal 90-degree welds just to get my skills up there, as well as doing some vertical welding, which you'll see here. Not so good at it, but working on it.
You know, I had a couple days where I had to take off just because I broke if you can recall on my very first video, I had a Pyrex cup, and I went to change out the tungsten to a smaller tungsten to a 1/16, and my wife walked in the shop, and I looked up and just kind of moved my hand, and it was enough to swipe that Pyrex right onto the ground, so it broke. Pretty frustrating. Had the whole weekend ahead of me to be able to do a little bit of practicing. I wasn't able to, so that's kind of the way it is. I wasn't happy about it, but it happened. So now I went ahead and got on weldmonger.com. Got me the TIG finger. I got an extra large, and then the I guess what they call the regular size maybe. I got that, as well as a 6, 7, and 8 cup, an Aluma cup, and so I'm pretty happy about that. I also done just a little bit of steel. Don't have an example. Actually, I do have an example in front of me. This is a knife that I forged. I also do some blacksmithing. You can kind of, I don't know how well you can see the emblem there, but M7 Metalworks. Done just a little bit of welding on this knife right here. This is just one of the blades I'd worked on. Oh, gosh, I probably did this almost a year ago.
Okay, so this was done with my right hand.
Getting a little better at stopping those craters. Getting a little more consistent. Okay, these are the 3 welds I've just done. If I get my finger off of that here. Okay, so this first weld right here, I pulled my arc. Actually, that's pretty good. This is just some carbon showing here. This one here, I got thin in the center. So obviously, got some issues there. Still working on that crater. The third one with my right arm, you can see now I'm starting to kind of get it a little bit. Again, still working on getting that crater diminished. Well, hello everybody. This is Chris, M7 Metalworks. It's the end of day 5, and just going to kind of cover some things that I've learned in the last 5 days. I haven't been welding every day, to be truthful. I've skipped some days. I actually broke the cup on my welder, and so I've gotten an alumina cup, and I had a Pyrex on there, if you recall video 1. So this is the end of day 5. I've just welded some of the stuff you've just seen me do. I welded on about 160 amps. This last, actually my last bead there, I ran 160 with no pulse. And so that's on about 200 thousandths aluminum. It was dirty. So I'm just going to kind of cover some of the lessons that I've learned here in the last 5 times of TIGging. It's really been about, it's been about 10 days. So I've actually averaged about a day of TIGging every other day. So it's been about 10 days since I first got the TIG, first TIGged. So some of the lessons, I just jotted a few things down here so I wouldn't forget. Gas is important. Don't try to cheap out on gas. One of the things I tried to do, because I'm always about saving a buck, so I turned my gas way down. You know, I thought, hey, I had it on about 20 CFH, and so I turned it down to, I think, around 7 or something like that, and was wondering why I wasn't getting any good welds. And I thought, well, the only thing that really changed that I know of is my gas. Maybe that's doing it. And so I cranked it back up to 20, and voila, I had great welds again. And so, well, great for me anyways. But anyways, don't cheap out on the gas. Gas is important. You have to have it to shield that weld. If you don't have it, your weld will look like snot. So real important to do that. And then consistent pace is critical to uniformity. I notice if I'm not being consistent in my pace across the metal, and even picking it up a little bit in the end when my when my aluminum starts getting heat in it, I find that I don't get the uniformity. And I also back off on my pedal as I get towards the end. You know, in this case, I'm doing about a 4.5 inch, maybe 4 inch run every time I run a bead here. By the time I'm at about 2.5 inches, I'm having to pick up my pace a little bit and ease off on the pedal, my amperage pedal. So I use foot control. Foot control, that's my next lesson learned. Foot control is essential to preventing craters. I have to learn how to back off on that amperage as I get toward the end, and even kind of float my torch around a little bit. Makes a huge difference. And then fourth, pulse is nice, but upping the amps is important if you want to keep the effect. So 160 amps on what I'm doing is fine, but if I want to keep the same effect, I do have to increase that amperage. You know, I don't know, maybe 10% or so. So instead of 160 amps, you know, bump it to 175, 180 amps. Somewhere in that neighborhood is probably going to get you about what you need as far as keeping the same effect. Number 5, if you can't see it, you can't weld it. And get yourself a good pair of glasses if you have to. You have to be able to see the weld. There's times when my eyes aren't so good, and I've got some actual glasses that I use. I think I mentioned it before. I use these for welding only. I don't see particularly good distance-wise, but you can't see it, you can't weld it. Tight arc is important, and if you can't see it, you can't have a tight arc. So, you know, make sure you can see. Use cheaters, whatever you need to do. Number 6, AC balance of 65-35. So 65-35 helped me with this dirty aluminum. My aluminum isn't particularly clean, and I've been cleaning it. I use some acetone to clean it. But when I changed from 70, 75 to 65, that made a big difference. The cleaning action really helped. Long post flow gas is not essential on aluminum. It's very essential on stainless, but having a long post flow of 6 or 7 seconds isn't really necessary on aluminum. I bumped it down to 4, and I think I could easily get away with 2 or 3. Lift tungsten, number 8, lift tungsten when dipping your rod or pull back. So a lot of times when I'm dipping my rod, I'm either very subtly lifting as I dip my rod, or I'm backing up as I'm dipping my rod. And so backing up, a 1/16 of an inch, if you struggle just lifting the rod straight up and coming right back down to where you were, maybe going back, that's definitely helped me in some places. So that's been real helpful, either lifting that rod or going back maybe a 1/16 of an inch, just avoiding the puddle, because when you dip that rod, the puddle rises, and I've cleaned 1,000 tungstens in 5 days of TIG welding. So anyways, those are the lessons that I've learned so far. I'll keep you guys up to date, and as I continue to improve. I have been, if you haven't noticed, been trying to change hands, and so I'm TIGging with the right hand and TIGging with the left hand, and left hand torch, right hand torch, and trying to kind of vary that a little bit. I'm right-handed, and so I actually started TIGging, if you didn't notice my videos, with my left hand, and there I did that intentionally. Till next time, I'll try to keep you guys moving. I got a blacksmithing project that I've got to do, and I'm going to try some experiments with TIG welding a copper coin onto a money clip. So if that's something that interests you, stay tuned. That'll be next. Have a nice day.